common questions I get is, Alex, how do you manage, run, and operate a self-storage facility that's not in your backyard? In other words, remote management. I live in Miami, Florida. We are in beautiful Amelia Island at one of my storage facilities here, Amelia Personal Storage. And I'm joined by my good friend, Miss Shannon, who is our on-site property manager. She's actually interviewing local boots on the ground team members. And we'll talk about boots on the ground, but what I want to do now is just answer some really common questions, kick it over to Shannon, who has forgotten more about self-storage than most people know. And we want to talk about, how do you operate a storage facility remotely? It used to be maybe 15, 20 years ago that most people would think you actually need to live where the facility is located, but we run an unmanned model, remote management system. So every single storage facility that we have a local boots on the ground team member. We have an amazing third-party management company that manages the storage facility. And then we have a call center and software. And that's our three-pronged management system. So with that said, I want to introduce you to my friend Shannon. Shannon, talk to us about remote management. Like, when people are thinking about buying a facility that's not in their backyard, what are some of the things they need to think about? What are some of the things they need to account for?
So with being third party, you want to make sure your boots on the ground that you're going to have here, however many days as you want. For us here at Amelia Island, we have once a week. You know, so when I'm training or hiring, I'm posting an ad on Indeed for about a week.
Okay.
No more than 7 days. You should have a rough general idea and a good base of applicants coming in within that time frame.
Okay.
You then want to make sure that you're looking at the resumes. What is their background? How long have they been at a job? Just like you would for any other position that you're hiring for. More importantly, though, setting up the phone interviews. You want to pull, once you get your applicants that you're interested in, set up a phone interview.
Okay.
You want to talk to them, give them a brief rundown of the description. You know, what exactly are they going to be doing? You talk about our Vinci's, Locker Fox, how we post pictures and things like that. You want to make sure that they're asking you questions. How in tune are they and how interested are they in the job?
Yeah. And when I pulled up, you were actually interviewing a gentleman.
I was.
You were on the end of an interview. So fortunately, at this particular location, which we've owned about 3.5 years, I think we've only had 2 boots on the ground team members. The first gentleman was a local firefighter that actually worked right across the street. We always love going to the fire departments because firefighters are very used to having side hustles or a second or third job. And that worked until it didn't. And then we had this gentleman that worked very well, and now he got another job. And so Ms. Shannon's on site interviewing. I think you have 3 or 4 interviews lined up.
I do. I have 3 for today. It's also when you're doing that phone interview, you get a good idea. You want to bring them to the facility.
Right.
You want to meet them at the facility. You want to make sure, and most importantly, you're walking them around.
Right.
You're talking to them about looking at the latches, making sure units are secured properly. You know, we have a whole process when the unit's not. We want to make sure we're alerting the tenant, making sure that he's reporting if he has to overlock a unit. Well, do you know why the lock didn't have a unit on it? Why are we overlocking it other than it being a past due tenant?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're showing them theoretically how to clean a unit. Far more than that, you'd be surprised. They're thinking they're just throwing a lock in the unit and sealing it up and putting a green tag on it. No, you want to make sure there's no cobwebs. You want to make sure that there's, you know, no debris inside the unit. You want to make sure driving up, you know, to your unit, it's ready to rent. How would you want it to look?
That's right. Look, as a storage operator, one of the things that you need to think about is put yourself in the shoes of a customer who's looking to rent a storage facility. What do people want when they're considering where to rent? They want a clean, safe, secure, and well-lit storage facility. So when we pull up to a storage facility, what's the eye appeal? Is there trash on the floor? Is it dirty? How does it make you feel? Every time I buy a storage facility, we look for cameras, and if not, we put cameras. We make sure there's good lighting. And then the job of a boots on the ground, like Shannon is describing, is that person is responsible for making sure that the storage facility is clean, that units are broom swept, that they're doing lock audits, that they're following a certain process, that Shannon's actually on site to not only interview and potentially hire somebody, but then spend tomorrow training them. So with that said, if we want to walk this way, as luck would have it, we have, like, I don't know if it's a garbage truck or we got a lot of noise here, but talk to us about remote management. When we are thinking about placing an ad, hiring a boots on the ground team member, one thing that I think is super important for you to know is every storage facility we own, whether it is a mom and pop large facility or whether it's a small facility, you're going to have a local boots on the ground team member. Roughly, what would you say is the compensation for a boots on the ground team member?
We typically start at a base of $600 a month.
That's at this location.
Right, exactly. And that is our baseline company-wide. Now, unless, they're going multiple times a week. With our model, with being once a week, it is $600. And it's also very important, and when you're advertising on your ad, is that you're advising that it's a 1099 contracted position.
That's right. So these are not employees. This is an independent contractor. And you might think $600 a month, that's so cheap, Alex. We're not running a storage sweatshop or anything like that.
Right.
How many hours a week would you say a boots on the ground puts in?
As long as they're keeping up and everything is running smoothly, which this facility does on a weekly basis, hour and a half tops.
Okay.
If that.
Yeah, an hour and a half tops. So you were talking maybe 8 hours a month for $600. Now, I have coaching clients in the Storage Wins community that have smaller facilities in more rural areas, I should say, and they pay anywhere between $200 and $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say anywhere between $200 $600 a month is pretty common in terms of compensation for a boots on the ground team member. We want to walk this way. So what else do we have to think about when it comes to remote management? The people that are watching us now are most of them are interested in buying their first facility, and they're concerned. They feel that they need to be on site. They need to see it, touch it. That way they're able to it's just an issue of control.
Right.
And what they don't understand is that when you have the right systems, the right processes, the right team members in place, such as yourself, such as the right boots on the ground, then remote management is not difficult.
It's not, and it's a very good point. You don't have to be. Once you've purchased your facility, you should be able to sit back and relax, trusting the team that you've hired to do a job.
Right.
That's the most important factor. Whether you're going to be an in-house management or you're going to outsource to a third-party management. Either way, you need to make sure that you're doing your research, looking into that third-party management.
Right.
What is their guidelines, what are their expectations, and then what are your expectations. It's also really important to have the right people in the field. We've been together for 3 years now, and that I come to you all the time when we have an issue, we need to discuss something, or if we have to talk. It's good to have that line of communication with your people that you have out in the field.
Extremely important. Look, whether you are buying a small facility and you're going to hire a boots on the ground team member and manage them, or you're looking for a larger facility where the revenue can justify third-party management, you're going to expect what you inspect, okay? And you're going to inspect what you expect, meaning if you have a third-party management company, how often do we meet, Shannon? Twice a month?
Twice a month, yes, sir.
Twice a month we meet. We have frequent dialogue and communication. We have a group chat. Shannon does an amazing job of keeping us in the loop as owners of this facility as to what is the status of the facility. Obviously, I'm looking at the management summary reports on a weekly basis. I'm keeping an eye on the occupancy, the overall financial health of the business. And then Shannon is keeping an eye on the operations. And then I'm managing Shannon and the whole team, and we just work very well together. So you always have to keep the lines of communication open, regardless of if you have a rental portfolio of single family homes or if you own a self-storage facility. But to me, remote management, because of technology and because of the advancement of how we're able to leverage all these tools and systems, 20, 30 years ago, we might not have been able to do this.
No.
Or it would have been a lot more difficult.
It would have been more difficult, yes.
Yeah, a perfect example is at this storage facility, we have an office. Now, we do rent the offices. This is a little bit of a unique facility for us, but we don't have anybody sitting behind a desk answering customer questions. When a customer rolls up, they're either going to scan the QR code, and that's going to take them to our website where they can rent a unit, or they're going to call our call center. And so that three-pronged management system of boots on the ground, third-party management / call center, and then our management software system, that is how you can manage, own, and operate a self-storage facility regardless of where you live. Again, I had to hop on a flight to get here this morning, and this is actually this is my third time at the facility. I was here during due diligence. I was here when we bought the facility, and we bought this facility about 3.5 years ago. So this is my first time back since we bought it, which is pretty awesome.
Yes.
Anything else in terms of talk to us about the lock system that we use? We use Vinci Locks. You know, sometimes people are like, hey, how come I see a green tag there and there's a red tag over there? Talk to us about like what happens when a unit is available versus when a unit is rented versus when somebody's behind on their payments.
Sure. So we use an overlocking system called Vinci Locks. That integrates with our FMS software, meaning that with us being remote model, you overlock my units a day. Well, I paid this afternoon. I don't now have to wait a week for our facility guy to come back to unlock me. So once I pay my unit with Vinci, that automatically sends me an unlock code.
Okay.
So I can come right into the facility. My gate code will automatically be working, so I don't have to worry about that. I come, I unlock the unit, and I return it back to our drop box.
This would be an example.
Yep. So well, this is a regular customer lock right here. So at the time of move-in, you'll see a green tag. That indicates that that unit is ready to run. So that means that the unit has been swept out. We have already swept it, prepared it with a customer lock right in front, and now we green tag it. So that when I pull up, I rented the unit. Well, okay, I'm coming to this unit right here. I'm going to come and I'm going to easily just break this tag in half. When I open up the unit, I'm going to have a lock right there in it for me.
And that's how, if you're a customer and you go online and you rent a unit or you call the call center, you're gonna automatically get text the gate code, correct?
Yes, or once this lease is signed, you get all information sent to you via email and in message.
Exactly. So it's completely automated. It's a seamless system. They know, like in this particular example, if I was a customer, okay, Alex, it's unit 157. Like Miss Shannon said, this is not going to be here. This green tag, there'll be a lock inside there, and that's it. And anything else they need to know about like the lock systems? I love Vinci.
Vinci, yes, it's because it integrates. It's so self-happening right in the moment. You don't have to worry about anything. The messages that you get right then and there. We also use Vinci's when a tenant is past due or goes delinquent. And or if they go into that, unfortunately, that lien status, meaning, you know, they're 2 months past due on rent, and it's now automatically into that status.
That's right.
What I like to try to do with my facilities and here at Amelia, once I see that it starts going that delinquent and it's now hit the lien status, I'm trying to reach out to the tenant myself.
I've seen you be extremely proactive.
Yes, I do,
phones.
because I don't want people. I'm human, just like everybody else. You don't want people to lose their stuff.
Of course,
life happens every day, but it's the compassion that you show. Maybe I can waive a late fee. Yeah, okay, maybe we just waived one a month ago, but it doesn't matter. We're still getting that full rent. You're still getting that, and you're retaining the tenant. It's all about retaining your customers, your tenant. You want occupancy up as much as possible. So I'm going to go out of my way to try to help, even if maybe I got to remove that lien fee.
And look, to your credit, you remember when we bought this facility, I think we had 5 or 6 reviews on our Google My Business listing profile. Now we have, I think, 92, 93 reviews at the time of this. That is nothing to do with me. That's because of Shannon, her team, the customer service, the way they take care of customers, the way they care. Because like she said, they're human beings and people go through things. So I love, and I want to give you your flowers, how proactive you are in reaching out to the customer base. Because without customers, we don't have a business. And
we should. And it's great, you know, we being a remote model, we kind of lose that
the touch.
that interaction with our customers, right? Versus being an on-site manager.
Right.
You know, which I came from. You know, I managed the 800 unit facility myself. You know, so I built up a relationship with customers, and it's like you lose that. So even that one phone call, reaching out, you know, hey, you're past due. What can we do to help? You know, when can you get payment? You know, this you have till this day.
Right.
Sometimes we go to the last very minute. You know, we've had it happen. You know, so we try to do what we can to help our tenants out, because that is what.
And they appreciate it. Like, look, you know, one of our team members, we always are looking to go above and beyond from a customer service perspective. One of our team members will do a monthly touch point, and she will call all of our customers, not because we have to, but it's just a check-in. How are you doing? How are things with your unit? How are things with the facility? Is there anything that you need? Is there anything that we can do for you? 90% of the time, Shannon, they say, no, I'm good, but I really appreciate the call. Thank you. Exactly. And one of the things she'll do is she'll also ask, once she gets a positive review that things are good, she'll say, hey, Can you think of anybody that might need a storage unit? Because we have a referral program, and then she'll talk about the referral program. So really, I would say, would you say that managing of a storage facility remotely, is it complicated? Is it difficult? Is it something anyone can do?
As long as you have the right team in place and the ones that you can trust, the ones that want to put the work and the effort in, you know, just be not just think of it, oh, well, it's a 1 day a week position, or, you know, I have other property. No, you got to want to put the work in.
Right.
You want to make sure that the line of communication, foremost, and at the top always, you always need a line of communication and reporting, you know, because sitting in an office, I can't fix. If I don't know, I don't see.
Correct.
So it's the pictures. You say pictures say 1,000 words. Well, to us, on a remote model, they're a million times, you know, worth the words.
Actually, I'm glad you said that. And if we could walk this way, because I want to show you when Shannon talks about the pictures and how important that is. This is something that when we got on site, we actually didn't know about, because the previous boots on the ground, I don't want to throw him under the bus, right? But maybe
it's the lack of communication, and this is what happens.
Right, and they didn't send you all the pictures that you require. And so now one of the things that, as you're interviewing potential boots on the ground team members, is you're talking about the fact that we need a certain number of pictures. We need pictures of every building. We need pictures of the retention pond back here, the
drive aisles.
The drive aisles, exactly, the parking. Because when you're remote management, you're relying on the quality of that boots on the ground, and you want somebody that's going to be very detail oriented, very like it's a checklist. So Shannon and her team do an amazing job of not only hiring the right people, but training them. And it's so important that that person is following the process and the system. Every business needs systems, processes, checklists. Storage business is no different. In fact, we rely on that, because without it, you're about to see there's an area in the back that we thought was going to be in better condition than it was. And it's because Miss Shannon and her team never got the pictures from the boots on the ground, which is why now she's on site interviewing new potential team members here. So talk about kind of what's going on back here, right? Like there's certain things that you and I were talking before we started recording that it's like, well, a boots on the ground, just because it's not in the checklist doesn't mean that they shouldn't use common sense to a certain degree and say, hey, Miss Shannon, I'm noticing this. Is there something we can do about it? What would be a good example of that? If we were in another building, I would show you a particular area, but like.
So we could go right here if you want to look over to the right here. This is our retention pond area. Well, you can see throughout around the fence line, there's a lot of overgrowth. Even in the back area right there, while it's not a parking spot area, as you can see, these are our parking spots, you still want to maintain, you still want to have it nice and clean and a nice look, because that's the perception and that you're giving customers coming in. So you want to make sure that your boots on the ground is reporting to you, hey, grass doesn't look like it's been touched, or hey, you know, it needs some more love back in the back area here. So it's really important that you're getting a full scope of your property every week when your guy is going.
Right. And look, this would be another area over here that as you and I were walking, I'm like, why wouldn't the boots on the ground communicate to you that there's trees that are coming over the fence line here? So there's a church right next to the facility, and there's all these trees, which you're about to see in a minute, that are coming in that even if you were driving a small car, the trees are going to be like hitting the car. And this affects the perception that a customer may get if they come on site and they just see, okay, well, is this as clean as I want it to be? And this can be the difference between renting a unit and not renting a unit, is the cleanliness, the organization of a storage facility. One of the most, I think one of the most expensive things as a self-storage owner operator that people don't really think about or consider is a vacant, empty unit, because that unit's not generating any revenue. And if you've been following the channel and you've been listening to some of the content I put out, you know, when you factor a cap rate to revenue that's generated or lost, it's going to have a significant impact on the overall value of the business, the overall value of the facility. So as you can see back here, all these trees are coming over the fence line. This is something that a really good boots on the ground team member is going to take pictures of this, communicate to Shannon and her team, hey, we need to get the lawn guy out here to make sure that this is cleaned up. Because again, our job is to make sure that we're providing a safe, secure, and clean self-storage facility for our customers. Anything else to add just in terms of operations in general, anything we've covered, or maybe something that I haven't even thought to ask you about?
I would like to, maybe the parking is really, really important to touch on parking.
Okay.
Making sure that, within your management software that you get any new parking that comes in, make sure that your guy's getting a picture of it, right?
Yes.
Make sure you're getting a tag. Make sure you're getting a description with the picture of the vehicle because softwares, we can add that into it. So, if for something were to happen, we have documentation. If it goes into lien, unfortunately, okay, even though, we can't sell it, but that is, now we have the authority to have that vessel towed off because one, we either have a VIN number, we have a make, we have a model, we have a license tag. What if we have an unknown parking tenant?
Actually, so one of the things that I pride myself in is not just showing like the glorious aspects of self-storage. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. Ms. Shannon knows that we've had our fair share of challenges from time to time. Now, super grateful that this storage facility is actually very easy to manage and operate. I've had experiences in other markets that wouldn't be the case, but here's a perfect example of what Shannon was just saying. So believe it or not, this vessel, this Boston whaler that is from probably the 70s or the 80s, that has literally vegetation growing from inside of it, has been here for years. And that's on us. We haven't prioritized this as an operator. That's not her fault. But we have not been able to locate who the owner of this vessel is. And we just don't want to have something towed off and sold or scrapped, and then obviously have somebody come in and say, hey, where's my boat? And so we've been super, super cautious with this, and we're going to start getting a little bit more aggressive to do everything we can to track down the owner of this. But this has been on site now for what, a couple of years at least?
It's been here since you purchased the facility.
Since we sold about 3.5 years, this thing has been on there. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges that we experienced at this facility. We've put quite a bit of work into it, but one of the things that was just a complete mess was the parking. So Shannon and her team have done an incredible job. We didn't have parking signs. We didn't have the notice, hey, we will tow away your car if you're illegally parked. And then we were able to also maximize the revenue by cleaning this up, organizing it, and adding additional parking, which obviously has generated more income for us. It's increased the overall value of the facility. But aside from the fact that we need to find the rightful owner of this vessel, it's also space that's being taken up, and now we can't rent that space. And if we can't rent it, we can't generate the revenue. And again, back to my comment about that being one of the most expensive things in storage. Do you want to talk a little bit about how the parking was when we bought the facility, and then some of the things that you and your team have done to like clean it up here?
Right, so we had a lot of people that weren't in there correct. Either because the parking wasn't laid out properly, they couldn't, come and put their motorhome in it because the space wasn't big enough. So they come in instead of backing it in or parking along the fence line. So we had a lot of disarray going on. There was a lot of parking that didn't match the area that they were supposed to be in. So by us making sure that we had pictures, again, pictures are everything.
So
they are so, so important. Putting up signs, making sure, hey, check your lease. What sign, or make sure that you're in your assigned place because you could potentially be towed off. So once we got a handle on pictures, and all the parking area, getting that all cleaned up.
And that was a project, as you remember.
It was. It took me a little over a month.
Yeah, because when you don't have contact information and you have vehicles here, it's hard to track people down sometimes, and you don't want to just be so aggressive that you just get a tow truck in here. And again, that's somebody's car. So we were being very conservative with our approach, and we wanted to make sure that there's a certain amount of communication that has to go out.
That accommodation too, hey, we could do this. I just need you to come back 5 feet, move, you want to make sure tenant came from, who knows where to park their vehicle here at our facility. We need to make sure that they're taken care of regardless. But once we were able to match everything, we were able to spread the spaces out. We did have to come in and delete a few, but that, they weren't really theoretically hurting us, to make the spots more accommodating, especially since it's not a back end, where we just came from. That's all parking along the fence lines and everything. This is our only back-in area other than the retention pond parking. But it was great to have a spread out. So now people have more room. They didn't have to worry about, not being able to back in, or because, you do have these tight corners coming around.
Yeah.
So once we were able to get everything cleaned up and match parking with parking, it's made things so much easier and able to handle now.
That's right. And it's less time that our team is now spending on following up with people, trying to figure out who owns this vehicle, who owns this boat. So we're able to operate the facility more efficiently. We're not wasting time on certain things. We're generating more revenue as a result. I wish you would have seen pictures of when we bought this facility, this particular area. Now, in all fairness, when we got on site, we discovered that there's a few things that need to be cleaned up, right? Shannon and I were talking about how she's not thrilled with like this area here, some of that trash that was left there. That's what a really good boots on the ground team member is going to be able to take pictures, communicate that to your third-party management company, or to you, if you're the one managing the boots on the ground team member. And then we have some people locally here that can come and can haul off the stuff. Our lawn guy has done that for us. So it's really good to have relationships with vendors in the market where your storage facility is. That's really, really important. And these people essentially become just a part of your team, so that if something goes down, if we need an electrician, if we need somebody to handle the lawn, if we need somebody to fix the siding, which is one of the issues that we're going to work on here soon, we know we have go-to people. We have handymen.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's important too that you're, when you're looking at for boots on the ground, what kind of background do they have? Do they have a maintenance background?
Talk about that, because it's so convenient when you have a boots on the ground team member that is a handyman or handy woman.
Right, exactly.
Versus, okay, now we have to find somebody else. It's just an extra resource that we need to tap into.
Absolutely. You ask them, do you have the means and capabilities? You sometimes have auction units that don't sell.
Yeah.
And you have to clean out junk units, or, like the items that we just were looking at, you want to have boots on the ground, hey, can you haul that off?
Yeah.
How much would you charge? You always want to try to give your boots on the ground the opportunity
to make some more money.
To make more money, because then the more that they're producing, the more they're going to put into your facility as well.
That's right.
And again, the interest that they're showing in it.
Yeah. You remember that storage facility I owned in a different market where we had a boots on the ground team member that refused to use a lock cutter? And that's challenging, right? Because now that person is going to rely on somebody else. It just slows down the process. And when you run a business, you want to run as efficient as possible. You want to have systems in place. You want to have good people in place. So this business is no different than any other business. You got to have good people like Shannon. You got to have a really, really strong boots on the ground team member. And it's that teamwork. I don't want to use the teamwork makes the dream work, but that's how you're able to manage and operate a facility remotely, where I can live in Miami. This is just north of Jacksonville, or it could be on the other side of the country. If you have a good team in place, if you have the right systems in place, you're going to be able to manage it. I'll give you the last word. I so appreciate, I know this is not something you typically do.
No, it's not.
So I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Like I said, I feel like you've forgotten more about the storage business than most people know. And this wouldn't be possible. Like, we've grown a lot as a result of you and the rest of the team. So yeah, I'll give you the last word if there's anything you want to share.
No, it's been a pleasure, because this is our first time actually getting to meet together. I know. It's only on Zoom that we ever get to talk, but in person and everything, it's great to, be able to just to meet and talk and be able to walk the facility. But it's been a pleasure. It really has.
You are a rock star. So
it has been amazing being able to work with Alex, for the last couple of years. It's always, nice to know whenever I need something, I have a problem. What do I do? Help, and that's the relationship that you should have.
Yeah, that's where she was saying the open lines of communication, working together as a team. So look, hopefully this has helped you. If you have any fear or uncertainty about managing and operating a facility remotely, I think this will answer a lot of common questions. And naturally, there's going to be things you don't know, but when you're working with the right team members, I think it was Henry Ford, and we'll end here. Henry Ford said, do you know how, somebody asked him, well, do you know how to do this, or do you know how to do that? And he says, no, I don't, but there's a phone right there that I can pick up the phone and I know who knows how to do that. And that's kind of how I feel, right? I don't know every single little thing about the operations of a storage business, but I know who does. And I have learned a lot in the process of managing, owning, and operating. So with that being said, make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, to the Storage Wins podcast. And if you need anything, if I can serve you in any way, please reach out, let me know.